Thank you, Rick, and Mayor Grace, Mayor Jackson, Howard Mayor, thanks for the opportunity. A gentleman sitting next to me just said, well, now you have more time. And I said, that's good, because I feel I was going to blow my time. So, but it is an honor to be here. This is the second time I've had the pleasure to present to this summit. And the last time I came wearing a hat that was wearing the planning director's hat, and we talked about the Cleveland Lakefront plan. And I really think, as Rick opened this, while I'm going to make a few comments that may sound Cuyahoga County or Cleveland-centric, we talk about the assets of Northeast Ohio. They're everybody's assets around these 5 counties and certainly beyond. And the Lakefront is certainly, obviously, one of those for us all to work toward. But I am glad, and I want to make a plug. I think he just left, but to Mayor Jackson, who has kept that plan aflame, the torch aflame on the Lakefront plan. The city is still moving toward implementation, and you're going to hear in a minute from our colleagues from Ohio Department of Transportation. They've been a great help in continuing to move that along, both in District 12, Bonnie, and from the state of Ohio, Joanne. So thank you for that. But I'm not going to spend all my time talking about University Circle, but before I forget, I do want to invite you to Cleveland's signature summer event, which kicks off tomorrow, which is Parade the Circle, sponsored by the Cleveland Museum of Art and University Circle, Inc. It is an incredible showcase of what Cleveland's all about in terms of arts and culture. Kicks off at 12. We expect people to get there early and then spend the day with us. We've got 4 different bands from around the world. We've got a drumming percussion band from Japan coming in. We've got a jazz band coming down from Detroit, and we've got 2 local bands here. Some of you may know Colin DeSalt and his blues project. He'll be out there. It's a fantastic day, so I needed to get that plug in for you. Do come out and join us. I guess most importantly in terms of job succession since I left the planning department was I became a dad. And that is the love of my life and my favorite job, but I have a 1-year-old, so it's enough to try to make sure my socks match in the morning. But I drove Audrey off to her daycare, which is right outside the Cleveland Clinic, and I joked with Steve on the way in when I was running a little late. I said, you know, number one, it is a interesting morning opportunity to get your 1-year-old off to work when your spouse has got another busy job. So did that and was pulling into the parking lot here on my way back, and I realized that for 20 minutes I had been listening to a sort of trumped-up techno version of The Muffin Man. So I don't know, if I don't sound completely clear this morning, it's right, there's no sleep there, Howard, when you're fathering as well, as you know. Well, when I talked to Jonathan about some remarks, first of all, he encouraged me not to show our PowerPoint Roadshow, because while you'll see some others today, you may have already seen ours in University Circle. If you don't, we're coming soon to a community near you. We are trying to sell what we think is University Circle's greatest regional asset in our center of employment growth. And again, it's everybody's. People come, whether it's to work at the Cleveland Clinic or University Hospitals or Case Western Reserve, from counties all around this area. Many of you now host satellite campuses of those same institutions within your communities. And if you don't, you might come out again to events like Parade tomorrow, or as we always survey at our summer concerts every Wednesday night, called Wait Over Wednesdays, I take a hand survey of where people come from, and they come from your counties, out to University Circle. So University Circle is yours, and please experience it. But I did want to take the opportunity to actually proffer up some potentially controversial comments this morning, some potentially provocative comments to lay a little bit of a framework for our discussion later in the panel discussion. Bear with me, and if you have tomatoes, you can throw them at me over the lunch hour, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, from a planning perspective, where I think we need to go with infrastructure. If the title of this panel discussion this morning is The Future of Infrastructure Investment in Perilous Economic Times, it is my opinion that we should start with a subtitle that goes something like this: Poorly planned infrastructure is indeed a contributing factor to our nation's perilous economic times. Infrastructure and the lack of planning, I think to some degree, is the reason we are in the place we are in. It's not too often said to be one of the root causes of the global financial meltdown. Not too often is it said that sprawl was a contributor to that, but it was. Nowhere is the cause and effect more apparent than in the state of Ohio. Ohio should be among the states, the poster states, for powerful metropolitan planning around our 7 urban centers. Yet the opposite has occurred when it comes to our ability to actually continue to revitalize urban centers. And we're all in this together. This is not at all pejorative to any of us. It's just, I think, marking our challenge. In our flat growth population state, we continue to needlessly chew up landscape. And Northeast Ohio is probably a microcosm for the rest of the state. In our flat growth region, we still managed to chew up 100,000 acres of farmland, green space, and woodlands in a 5-year period, 2002 to 2007, according to the U.S. Census of Agriculture. In a no-growth region, it's a development area that is equal to 2 center cities of Cleveland. That's how much we sprawled in Northeast Ohio in 5 years. We took the landscape of 77 square miles of Cleveland, multiplied it by 2, and put it in places where people didn't theretofore exist. So, what are we to do? Population loss is just one of our Achilles heels. The other is duplicative infrastructure and spending twice as much for roads, bridges, sewers, and municipal services while struggling to maintain existing services. If we're hobbling on one leg of population flight, and the other being the inability to pay for services, 2 Achilles heels don't make for a well-running place. And it is no wonder why many of the first-ring suburban mayors are hanging it up. They're retiring. In part, they can't balance their books. Moody's bond rating service is predicting this is a nationwide phenomenon. And when Moody's talks, it matters. Municipalities that can't balance their books will continue to see a downgrade of their ratings, their bond ratings, and their ability to borrow money at cheaper rates. It's not the fault of those municipalities. It's our failed ability to get any real traction on growth control and growth management, to develop any sense of a national urban policy, and the failure of the state of Ohio to put any priority on community preservation and preservation of our grade 5 soils. I told you I was going to be controversial and I was going to be provocative, but I continue to say we're all in the same boat. If not now in your community, tomorrow in your community. Urban growth boundaries, farmland preservation, green belts, tax-based sharing, it's all a spectator sport to us. We sit in the stands and watch what other metropolitan areas are doing. And today we pay the price. Everyone is legitimately waiting for the economy to come back. The question is, as it invariably will come back in some sense, will we artfully demonstrate insanity by simply doing what we used to do all over again? When the home builders and mortgage lenders strike up the band again, I suggest we in this room today do our best to lead them with smart growth and targeted infrastructure, rather than the cliff that they let us off recently. Are we ready to really face our next building upturn? There will be one, but I would argue that we're absolutely not ready to face it. I believe if we can do more of what we are doing today, which is working together with a focus and a purpose for community vitality and sustainability, then we can get there. I have great hope that Washington continues to work on a framework for stimulus funding, but at best that appears a work in progress. You wonder where your federal tax dollars go. You wonder where your children and grandchildren will find the finances to continue to help us find this country its way out of this deep recession. But here in Ohio, and particularly in Northeast Ohio, there appear some basic things we can do. There's been a lot of talk about regional reform. Uh-oh, here comes more of the controversy. Mostly talk. But there's a triple play out there that should be applied as we develop a better planning framework. Number 1, may we consider unified metropolitan government. Counties should begin to act as opportunities for consolidated single county, single city forms of government. Unigov strategies have been successfully demonstrated in other neighboring states, in cities like Louisville and Indianapolis, who, matter of factly, are balancing books in first-ring neighborhoods of the center city county that is consolidated. Yesterday's ruling on the residency rule in the state of Ohio wouldn't have quite the impact when Cleveland firefighters will move from West Park to West Lake if we had a framework such that paid income and property taxes are paid to the same single authority. We wouldn't worry as much about it, but it is a zero-sum game. We pit neighbor against neighbor in competition for people, for jobs, retailers, and institutional facilities, such as hospitals. Speaking of hospitals, we had a war between 2 counties 2 years ago where NOACA served as a forum for that battle, as it often does. I miss being on the board of NOACA. I love those battles, but I loved more working with you on solutions such that we can mitigate those battles in the future, that they don't seem to be such battles. If we learned anything from that, it's that tax-based sharing is within our reach and that it ought to be applied across counties as it is in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. But if you had a sour taste in your mouth over that one, I don't blame you. It's because we dealt in that case with tax-based sharing in a piecemeal way to get to yes on an infrastructure decision, rather than what we should be doing, which is laying out a framework for tax sharing and then applying each case to the test.